Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk the basics. So one of my personal favorite features within DataHub is our ability to quickly view kind of the profile of a data set, the kind of shape of the data, to really kind of minimize the amount of ad hoc discovery you need to do within it. You can just kind of get a glance at what that data looks like. So Tamás and I are going to give you a rundown of all things data profiling and usage stats within DataHub. So let's just start with the basics. Why do we care about data profiling? So I think the main driver here is answering questions around, can I trust this data set? Is it fresh? How large is it? Are there dupes I need to worry about? Are there null values I need to worry about? What's actually meaningful about this? So what character column is going to be a unique identifier versus a categorical variable that I can kind of pivot the data around? How has this data changed over time? Is it consistent? Are there time series issues I need to think about? And a lot of these can be answered just looking at the stats page in a dataset entity in DataHub. So what you'll see here is a sample data set, and in our stats tab, you'll see a quick kind of like high level view of all stats related to this table. So I can start to answer by looking at the latest stats or historical stats. What does this data look like now versus some time in the past? So has it evolved over time? How large is this data set? Am I dealing with a ton of records that I'm going to need to think about kind of like query performance or kind of processing time, or is it small and I can just kind of zoom right through it? How up to date is this data? When's the last time that it changed? When's the last time that it was updated? Just to give me a sense of kind of data freshness there. The kind of like zooming in on the output, we can start to look at column level stats. So answering questions around data quality issues. So if we see like with this location description column, we see that there's about 8,700 null values within this data set. Now the data practitioner can look at that and say like, oh no, that's untrustworthy. But then in the grand scheme of things, since there's 7.5 million records, it's less than, it's like 0.1% of the data set. Maybe it's not something I need to worry about. I can start to look at what date ranges are represented within the data set. So this is looking at records from early 2001 all the way to the end of 2021. So to give me a sense of just what's the breadth of history included here. I can start to understand, are there duplicates? So looking at our unique key, I see that this is 100% distinct. So great, it is unique. I don't need to worry about dupes there. Thinking about, kind of like feature categories or reporting categories, what categories are actually meaningful? So if I look at within a data set of 7.5 million and there's 61,000 categories of block, that tells me that that's, pretty high cardinality and something that, maybe would be useful for reporting or modeling around. The other thing is we see sample values, so you can get a sense of what data is actually in here, right? So if like maybe you just see a column called block, what does that even mean? Oh, now I see that this is, an actual like physical street block within the city, or this is, kind of like the types of categories that are going to be measured here. One thing to note with this, this is all configurable. So some folks are worried about actually displaying this information to the well, some teams are worried about accidentally displaying the wrong information. So you can configure each of these to actually show the sample values or not. It's up to your discretion there. And then on the other side of things, we think about usage stats. So this starts to answer questions around how is this data generally used? What columns are most important? Even if the table has been updated recently, are people actually querying it? Like, is it something that is used within my community of data practitioners in my company? And then questions around, who's using this, so I can go ask them questions about how to interpret the output of it. So kind of going back to our schema tab here with the same data set, we have this idea of query usage at the column level. This isn't supported for all of our SQL stores, but where this is available, we do surface it. So you can get a sense of, kind of the relative popularity of a given data set. You can also see the top users of it. So who's querying it the most, and maybe folks that you can go ask questions to. And also, oops, oh yeah, sorry. Then we start to look at actual sample queries. So on our queries tab, this is where we start to surface the most popular queries over a period of time. So you can start to kind of understand what are kind of like the most common calculations, and also what are things that have already been calculated, so you don't have to kind of like recreate the wheel. You don't have to recreate that or rewrite that query from scratch every single time. And then also just a sense of how often this data is queried within your organization. So with all of those use cases in mind, I'm actually going to pass this over to Tamás so we can see how this is configured, how it's ingested, and how you can get it up and running within your stack.
Yes, hi. So there was a question when it's available. Actually, there is a good news, it's available. And now I'm going to show you how you can set it up. So it's super easy. It's currently available for all the SQL sources, and we are using Great Expectation under the hood. But let's go into the details. So basically, just to enabling it, it's super easy. You don't have to do much, just entering the profiling enabled and set it true. And then if you just go and run your recipe, then profiling should happen automatically. But one thing you should know actually about that, profiling is not for free. So actually profiling time can really it can be affected by how many tables do you have, how many columns you have in a table, and how many rows you have in a table. So most probably because of that, you might need to tweak a bit your profiling configuration, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. If I can click my other, okay, sorry. Previously I showed you these 2 lines. Now you can add even more lines just to disable or enable all these profiling. And when I'm going through all of those, you will see what kind of profilers we have. And basically we have all the options. So you can really, it's up to you what you want to turn on and off. It's totally on you. So for numerical values, for all of the columns, we calculate null counts, and you can enable with an include field null count, set it true or false. For all the numeric columns, we calculate minimum value, maximum value, mean value, median value. For integer fields, we also generate standard deviation if it's needed for you. And also for like timestamp fields, we calculate as well minimum and maximum value. So, and here you can see, I think it's quite straightforward how you can enable and disable those. There is an option as well, like include field quantize. So if you enable that for numeric fields, we calculate the 5th, the 25, the 50, 75, and the 95 percentiles. Currently, actually, it's disabled by default because it's not shown in the UI. But if you want and enable that for the backend, we are storing this information and calculate that. But this is not visible on the UI currently. There is the distinct value frequencies. This calculated for low cardinality numeric fields. Sorry, low cardinality fields actually. And this as well not shown on the UI currently, so this is disabled by default. And the field histogram, where for numeric fields it can generate automatically a histogram for you. This as well not shown currently on the UI, so it's disabled. The field sample values, this is what you could see. So like Maggie's screenshot where you had these sample values. This is the one where you can control if you want to enable or disable that. And these are about the profilers. We also, just to make sure that these profiling queries run effectively and fast enough, we introduced this query combiner, which basically try to make sure that all these profiling queries run in optimal batches and not doing too many round trip towards the your data warehouse. And this by default it's enabled. If you want to disable because you see some issue or anything, you still can enable or disable that. You also have control to say how many columns in a table you want to profile with the max number of fields to profile. If by default it's unlimited, but of course you can change it to 10 and then only 10 columns will be profiled. If you don't want column level profiles, then you can just enable a profile table levels only. So you will only see the counts of the table, but you won't see column level statistics. You also can set a limit, which basically add the limit to the profiling query. So if you set the limit 1000, that would mean only 1000 lines will be used for the profiling. That also means if you set it like 2000 and then you have like 2000 lines in your table, then in the end the total count will be 1000 because that was the limit for what we used. Offset is basically just add the SQL offset. So basically it's not start from that offset, it starts the profiling. But if you don't want to mess all of these, but you feel that, hey, my profiling is slow, we have a nice option, this turn off expensive profiling metrics, which you can turn on, and then it will turn off the expensive profiling profilers, and also set the max number of fields to profile to 10. But maybe you know that you have some tables what you want to add for profiling, or you want to do profiling multiple batches and you want to filter down for one profiling run to run only one schema. You can do that. So you can define profile pattern, and then profilers will only run on those tables which matches this pattern. One thing you should know that these profilers running on the whole table, which means if you have like a huge clickstream data on Hive with multiple partitions, then you should think size if you really want to do profiling on the top of that. In the future, we would like to support these partition tables, but now you should know about this limitation. And if everything went well, then I think the profiling finished, as you can see. And now if I go to DataHub page, I should have my table and all the stats should be here. But one thing you can see here, like the usage one, and you might ask, okay, but how I can enable the usage statistics? That's one thing what I think sometimes people get confused. So there you need a different recipe and a different source, which are the usage sources. Currently we support usage for Redshift, BigQuery, Snowflake, and Starburst Reno. And if you want to enable, it's super easy to do. It's basically you just install your source. So like in this case, you need to install the BigQuery usage source. And then basically, if you don't set anything, then it will get the usage for the previous day. If you want, you can set a start and an end time. Especially, I think it can be quite useful if you want to bootstrap your data. So you want to run in multiple days, and after that, you just only want to run like incrementally always for the previous day. You can set a start time and an end time, and also you can set a top n queries, which says for that table, how many queries we are going to, the top n queries what we are going to store with every table. And if I can quit my editor. Sorry. Never mind, I will do it here. Okay. So then I just need to run the ingest same way. in a normal way, and then it should collect all the usage set for that table. And one thing you should note that it's you should know that for every platform, I think there is some kind of retention period for these usage information. So it can happen like if you are on Redshift, you want to get usage set, but you can only see for the last 2 or 3 days. That's most probably because of that retention period what you have in these systems. Now, if I just hit refresh, I should be able to see all the queries here. And if I go to the schema page, I should see all this usage next to the columns based on the queries. So in high level, or not in that high level, but actually this is how you can use profiling and usage. As you can see, it's super easy to use. And we are continuously improving it. So like for profiling recently, if you use profile for a month ago and now, you might wonder how much faster it became, because now we are using like approximate queries wherever we can. We basically disabled those profilers, which currently you can see on the UI, and it made, I would say, like significant improvement for the profiling.